like my crazy psychic story. I don't know why I always try to do mukbangs. Talking with my mouth full is like a pet peeve. Cause yeah, look at that. You get juicy in the mouth and things. At work and I was like doing a bunch of clients and I had like been in this really like kind of like bubbly good mood, and this guy walked in and he looked kind of like mysterious or whatever, and he was kind of like watching me. I could tell he's like looking at me. I could tell he wanted my attention. This happens all the time, but I could tell him in particular that he wanted my attention. And so I was kind of like sitting there at my table and I was like, okay. And like he walked by and he threw up like the peace sign, and I was like, or like the peace sign this way. And I was like, hey, I like your shoes, like nice shoes. And he's like, oh, well, thank you. But before he even did that, and before he even threw up the peace sign at me, like trying to get my attention, he was standing over by like the fragrances. But again, he was like in my line of sight. And like he was basically like trying to get my attention that way, but I wasn't really paying it no mind, because as soon as he walked in, as soon as I saw him doing that, I automatically had this vision of him like shots fired, like he was trying to shoot shots at me. And not like shoot shots like shoot his shot, I mean like it looked like he had a gun or something like that, and like he was shooting at me. Of course this is all energetic, but that's just the vision that I had gotten. Like, and I was like, oh, he's angry. Like, why is he so angry? Like, I was like, oh, he's an angry person. And so I was kind of like, okay, well, there's that part of it, whatever. And then so he kind of like kept walking around and like trying to get my attention once again. And that's when he threw up like the peace sign or whatever. And I was like, nice shoes. And like he was cute. Basically, like he was somebody that a normal woman would look at and be like, oh, he's attractive. Like, because again, like he is attractive, or he was attractive. It was just like something about the energy. And then I saw like all the amulets he was wearing.
The only reason I mentioned the amulets as an issue or as a problem is because most people that wear a lot of amulets are doing it for psychic protection or against spiritual attack or against spell work. So, you know, psychic work is akin to psychology. And if you're thinking of it in terms of like the negative alchemy or being an alchemist, black magic and different things like that are akin to mental illness. So him wearing a lot of amulets means that he's focused mostly on the negativity of it instead of the positive.
Anyways, but that's what it was. It was kind of like, what is this? And so again, he had all these like amulets on, like big amulets. And they were like wrapped in copper. And he was in there getting a whole bunch of like essential oils and stuff. And I was just kind of like, okay. I was observing him. And at the same time as I was observing him, I was at the same time noticing him noticing me. Now, yesterday, y'all, here's the deal. Wearing makeup and taking care of yourself and dressing pretty, dressing nicely, having your nails done, having your feet done, and being and having a good disposition sends a totally different signal to a potential mate than not having any makeup on, not having your nails done, not having your feet done. It sends a totally different signal out. You know, some people look at like, if you're out there and you're looking kind of plain Jane, they look at it as if you're like insecure or as if you don't know your worth, to be honest. But honestly, a man that's looking to take advantage is going to see that as laziness, or he's going to see that as a weakness, or he's going to see you as kind of like moldable, especially if you're fine and you're doing that, which we're all beautiful. So again, especially if you're a woman and you're doing that, it makes it's almost like they see the insecurity in it. And immediately I could tell he wasn't grounded. So he's probably high, or he probably smoked some weed or something like that before he got there. I get that weed is legal, but weed is an addiction. It's still a drug. And so, if he has an addiction, that tells me that he doesn't have control over his impulses, like impulse control. And so I was like, okay, there's one thing that I'm kind of curious about. And so, again, any normal woman would think that this person is good looking. They think that he was fine. And so I was like, all right, well, you know, he's fine or whatever, but what's going on the back end? Like, if you really want to break down if you really want to break down whether or not this person's for you, or the psychology of a person, then I'm telling you, listen to the whole video if you can get through me sitting here and going back and forth and eating on my chips. But yeah, like breaking down the psychology of this person, I was just kind of like, this is weird. this is weird. Like, again, a drug addict has impulse controls. A drug addict also has something on his mind that he can't quite reconcile within himself, or that he feels guilty about. Or again, he's not able to reconcile it. Either this person feels guilty about what they've done, or they feel guilty, or they are lacking, or they're harboring unforgiveness in their own heart. And unforgiveness and all that is also still, again, like a byproduct of mental illness. So again, it struck a chord with me. I said, okay, he's suffering from mental illness. And so right away, we sat down and he started telling me like his problems. He started telling me like about how he's being held back by these governmental agencies. Right away, I was just kind of like, okay, so he's a hotep, or just whatever this is too. So right away he gave me like hotep vibes. Like, why can't you just come over and just say hi like anybody else would just do? Like, why do you feel like the need to put on this show? So again, it's like, okay, so you like putting on shows, huh? You like putting on shows. So that's where I was with that. Like, so he was putting on a show. After that, I like walked over to him and I'm just kind of like talking to him again to try and fill him out. Then we sat at my table for a little bit, and he was kind of like, he was really comfortable with, like, again, venting to me about things that weren't necessarily icebreakers. Like, again, I'm a psychic, I do psychic work, but the fact that that was so deeply on his mind that he felt the need to tell it to me right off the bat, I was like, okay, so that's the unforgiveness, either for yourself or just whatever. So again, I just sat there listening to him. And then after that point, he started asking me like questions like, oh, well, do you have any kids? And I was like, yeah, I have a 15-year-old daughter. And he's like, oh, okay, well, how about the dad? Are you with the dad? And the way he was saying it was more so like, it was very abrupt and to the point. So it was almost like, well, why are you so abrupt and to the point? Like, bro, like, we haven't even had no coffee yet. Like, why are you so abrupt and to the point when it comes down to this? Like, why are you rushing to the end game, basically? And so he was like, oh, okay, well, he didn't ask me if I had a boyfriend, though. Now, that's one thing. He asked me if I had, like, a baby's dad or whatever, but he didn't ask me anything about, like, whether or not I had a boyfriend, which tells me that he has no problem being a side dude, or he has no problem trampling on people's boundaries. And not only that, but if you're asking me all these really invasive questions, it tells me that you don't respect my boundaries. Or he doesn't have his own boundaries either, because, again, he's telling me this right off the bat, right away. And so he asked me for my phone number. I gave it to him. I gave him my business number. I didn't give him my cell phone number. I gave him my business number. And because, again, like, I'm a psychic. If you really want my time, it's $40. Go book a session. It's $70 for the hour. It's cheaper than what I would charge you. But it's, you know, go pay for my time if you really want my time like that. If that's what you really want. So if you really want my time the way that you're trying to portray it, then get it the right way. Don't sit here taking up my time at work, taking up my mental space and my mental energy. And not only that, but the way he was like, kind of his body language. Like, we're sitting there, and of course we're at a table sitting across from each other. My legs are pointed towards him and towards his legs, but he had his body kind of turned, like his legs were turned this way. So again, if you're with somebody and they're doing something like that, that's a closed off kind of gesture, and that's showing that they are they're in a closed off kind of mode, and they're not wanting to be as open with you, because, again, you're not vibrating towards one another. He's vibrating towards the abyss, the oblivion. And so anyways, and also even like even with that, like, although he was like, his body language was telling me that his body was somewhere else, because, again, also, ladies, like, if a man is like really into you, his chest will also be pointed towards you. He's going to want to point his chest at you. He's going to want to point all of his body toward you. And so I was like, okay, red flag. And so anyways, but then also, though, he was kind of like, had like a very like defeated posture. Like, he was kind of like hunched over, kind of slouched over in his chair. He was looking like really kind of he looked a little bit not lackluster. He looked like he just didn't really enjoy. He wasn't happy. He didn't look happy. And then, so anyways, but with this guy, like, I was sitting there and I made him smile or made him laugh about something, because I was trying to, like, you know, make him giggle, break the ice. And when he smiled, I noticed that he was missing a tooth. Again, no judgment. If something happened that, like, kind of like whatever, like, you never know what someone's going through. Maybe it was trauma. Maybe he was doing something that kind of like, but again, he had really pretty teeth, but he was just missing like one of them, which again led me to think that he was either lazy, you know, because again, laziness, if he's not flossing, then that's a bit of laziness. That's you not taking 3 minutes out of your day just to floss your teeth. You're depressed because again, if you're grinding your teeth and you're kind of like, if you guys are not familiar with the Bible, I guess the weeping and the moaning and the gnashing of the teeth. The gnashing of your teeth is the clenching of your teeth. So if you're clenching, you're grinding, you're breaking down enamel. You can lose your teeth that way. And so he was, but again, that indicates to me that you either have depression, you're lazy, or you have poor oral hygiene, which again is indicative of you being lazy or depressed. So there was that part of it. So I was kind of like, okay, that's a little bit interesting. Or if he lost a tooth to trauma, let's just say he got punched out, or just whatever the trauma may have been, it's also again indicative to you're reckless. So if you're reckless enough to lose your teeth due to a traumatic event like a fight or something like that, then why can't you control your emotions? So there's that part of it as well. It's not all about like being superficial as to you not wanting to date a man that's missing teeth. Like seriously, like it's not being nasty, it's not being negative, it's being real. Like what are you going through mentally that's keeping you from taking care of yourself? And so whatever, you know, again, he had pretty teeth any other kind of way. Like he had a pretty smile. He was what people would consider like universally attractive. Like he's a universally attractive person. There was like those couple little nuances there. And again, his speech pattern was a little bit erratic. If he's speaking in the speech pattern, he's either, again, so I know that he has an addiction anyway, because again, that erratic speech pattern, and then also still kind of like not really resting your mind. I had another client that was kind of sitting there, so he had to end up going ahead and leaving. So I kind of had to shut off our communication real quick, even though I was still reading his energy. Because again, I could tell that he was interested in me, and even if I had not given him my number, I knew he'd just come back into the store. So I wanted to see, you know, who he was as a person before I kind of like let the energy go and like kind of forgot about it. And so he left. And then I went through my readings in blah, blah. Long story short, I got home last night and I noticed that I had gotten a text from him. And he didn't text me like right away. He texted me like, you know, because here's the thing, ladies, like if he's not trying to play a mind game, if he's not trying to be deceptive in any kind of way, he would have texted me immediately. And I don't know why people think that that's a red flag. Being texted immediately by somebody that's mutually interested in you for the right reasons is a good thing. Like, don't think that this person should wait 3 or 4 days to text you back. If they're waiting 3 or 4 days to text you back, then that's either indicative of, again, them being lazy. They might have other options, or they're trying to play a mind game with you. And so anyway, so I got home yesterday and I was like, okay, he hasn't texted me yet. So again, my spidey senses are going crazy. Clearly you're eager to text me, or you're eager to communicate with me, because you still texted me the same day, but you're still trying to play this little mind game of, let me just wait a little bit so that I can kind of make her think that I'm disinterested, even though really it came off as like, it came off as if he were trying to be manipulative, but it was obvious. So I was kind of like, oh, okay. And so I texted him back probably like at 9 o'clock, because again, I had fallen asleep and I was just kind of like chilling at that point. And really, I was working, I fell asleep, and I was trying to like relax myself. And when I saw his text, like, I was happy to have heard from him, because I again, mutually wanted to talk to him as well. So me feeling that feeling of wanting to mutually talk to this person let me know that he also, like, because again, like attracts like. If I want to hear from you, that means that you want to talk to me. Like, that's 2 + 2 make 4 every time. It's mutual. And so I was like, okay, so it gave me a red flag as to why he was waiting so long. And then so I was about to go to bed, but my cousin had texted me and asked me whether or not I wanted to go to karaoke. And so I asked him, I was like, well, do you want to come meet me for karaoke? And he never even like acknowledged the fact that I said that, but he kept eagerly trying to talk to me. And I was like, and so I didn't bring it back up. I was just kind of like, I was like really kind of like pacing the conversation. And he started asking me like, well, how much is it for a session? And I told him my sessions are actually $90 for 30 minutes. I told him $75. And so I was just kind of like, oh, $75 for 30 minutes or whatever. But you know, it's cheaper if you go through the store, because technically I met him through the store. So technically he's supposed to come back through the store anyway. So I was like telling him like, well, you can come to me directly, but you should definitely, you know, if you want to pay a lower price, then come through the store. And so he's like, well, do you go to your client's house or do they come to you? And I was like, so he was asking all of these very abrupt questions. And I was like, oh, well, I usually go to my clients' houses. I really don't usually go to my clients' houses. I meet them somewhere totally different and somewhere totally else. But I wanted to see what he was going to say. And again, so he was just still kind of like standoffish about that, like almost like, oh well, like he didn't like me going to people's houses. And I'm like, red flag number 365, my dude. Like, you don't have a right to not like anything that I'm doing. And again, he still had not answered my question about whether or not he wanted to come out. A simple no, I'm in for the night would have done it or been sufficient. He also showed me like all these little things that he was doing as far as like his artwork was concerned. And it was just kind of like, and yesterday also he asked me like what I did for a living, like, oh, you're a psychic, like this is all you do? And I'm like, well, I didn't tell him that I have like a business and I did TikTok and stuff like that, or that I do like YouTube. I was just kind of like, you know, yeah, this is all I do. Like, let me see what you really got to going on here. And so whatever. So basically, long story short, he just never acknowledged that conversation. And long story short, well, is this phone I'm recording on, or else I had showed you guys, or I guess I can insert like receipts or whatever. Not that I have to insert receipts, but y'all get it, like, so you see what I'm talking about. And so whatever, that was that. And so I went out last night, and he still kind of like texted me. It was like maybe almost 11 o'clock at night. He also sent me like a selfie of himself. He sent me like these pictures, and when I got the picture, I was still kind of like leery, because he was still trying to talk to me, even though he was avoiding my question about whether or not he wanted to come out. It's not to say that he's a bad person, not to say he's a murderer or a killer. It's just to say that he's not, his vibration is low. Or, and it's probably just low because maybe he's going through something. But also though, it's almost like, well, why are you wanting to date if you're not in the place to date mentally and emotionally? At that point, I didn't really respond back at all the rest of the night. And when I got home, it was probably about like almost like 2 o'clock in the morning when I went to sleep. And so I sat there and I was like, I know I'm gonna hear from his ass bright and early in the morning, like super early. And so as soon as I woke up, and then like I looked at my phone and I saw that I had a text message from him, like, oh, send me a picture. Like, basically he was like, well, I want to see a picture of you without the mask on. You know, I look beautiful anytime. At least, you know, I look beautiful at any time without makeup or whatever, but you know, whatever. So you can still, so you saw me with makeup, you saw me without makeup, you saw me with a mask, and you saw me without a mask, so you know what I look like. But he was kind of like asking me for a picture. And so I was just kind of like, you know, right away I was like, if he texted me in the morning bright and early, I'm not gonna respond back at all. Like, I'm just gonna like let it go at this point, because it's again, it's indicative of a mind game. So if he can't text me back at night when we were actually talking and initiating the conversation, he either has a girl that he was with, or he lives with a woman. He might be a homosexual. And again, a homosexual is a man that goes from home to home to home because he ain't got nowhere of his own to stay, or he's unstable in some kind of way. So again, if you're bouncing around like that, it tells me that you're not healed in some kind of way. Or again, for me, what it felt like is that he's trying to play a mind game so he can manipulate me. Because and this is not to like toot my own horn. This is not to make it feel like I'm like the baddest bitch out there. But again, I feel like I'm the baddest bitch out here. I feel like I'm very beautiful. I know I'm a worthwhile human being. I mean, I know I'm a good looking woman. I know I'm a high earner. I know all these things about myself. And so I was just kind of like, if he texts me back bright and early, that means that he's trying to build suspense, or he's trying to build some kind of like tension in this relationship. And tension leads to sexual relationships, but tension also leads to agitation. He wants to see how much he can push my buttons before I get irritated. And so I wasn't going to go out of my way and let this person irritate me or agitate me or build sexual tension through agitation. I went ahead and just stopped texting back. I just discontinued the conversation from that point forward. He never texted me back, and I never texted him back. So that was just where that situation stood, or where I left it at. So going forward though, I know the rest of this video is a bit longer. It's probably about a 45-minute video that I've condensed down to like 20 minutes. So going forward though, this message was just to let you guys know that sometimes imbalanced men come in, and yes, they are still our soulmates. Yes, this person still has a value in your life, but sometimes that value is to teach you a lesson of what it looks like to avoid calamity before it starts. When I first saw that person, red flag number 1, I felt in my heart that that wasn't it. And so I stuck to that gun, even though going forward, I was like, okay, this could be something that just breaks my boredom, or this is something that could bring me out of a low place, or a perceived low place, because I was bored. So, and again, I could have just kept on with the conversation. I could have started or initiated some kind of relationship, even though it felt like this person just wanted a sexual gratification. I mean, if that's what I wanted, then I could have done that. But now that I know I'm looking for something greater and better for myself, I'm not even going to play them reindeer games with this person. I knew already that this person wasn't really on my same vibration or my same wavelength. So I decided I wasn't going to waste my time. And it's not to be rude, condescending, or whatever. It's just meaning that I'm going to choose myself first above all else. So ladies, if you guys are out there and you guys are playing the dating game and you're going back and forth with these people and they just don't seem quite right, or just whatever it is, don't go back and forth with them. Don't play the dating game. Just do you and wait for the right person to come to you, because eventually they will come. It might take you 2 months. It might take you 2 weeks. It might take you 3 years. But nonetheless, this person will come eventually. There's a blessing in every lesson. And the blessing sometimes is that you walk away from that instant gratification and you wait for that ultimate gratification. So he would have, in this instance, been instant gratification, but later on down the line, I would have seen this person, doing whatever they were doing, whatever I could assume that this person was going to do by asking me for my income and different things like that, when he didn't even know me like that, y'all. So there's that. There's different ways to maneuver into overcome or to circumvent low vibrational energy that wants to pull you down and either utilize you or suck you dry, or energetic vampires, if you will. So like, share, subscribe. I hope that this message resonated with you guys. I hope that you guys liked it, and check me out for my next crazy psychic story next Wednesday.